Hey everybody, it's PartyElite, and today we're taking a look at the Steam Spring Sale to single out some special deals that are well worth your attention. As always, I like to focus on games in the strategic, tactical, management, and simulation spaces, and if you have any recommendations of your own, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and if this video helps you find a new game for yourself, I would love to hear about it in the comments below too. Now with no more time to waste on a prolonged introduction, and with timestamps down below, let's dive on in. Phantom Brigade is on an absolutely massive 50% discount right now, available for just about $15, and it was one of my absolute favorite turn-based tactics games when it first came out in early access. You may have heard that there was a significant slowdown in updates during early access, and ultimately, a pretty unsatisfying 1.0 launch, but I only mention that to say that the devs recently dropped a massive update that totally makes it worth grabbing this game again, as it's an absolutely awesome sci-fi tactics game that puts giant mechs on the battlefield and uses a cool timeline-based turn system that we have seen in the genre before from time to time, sure, but honestly, this is the best I've ever seen it executed. The story is quite simple. Your homeland has been invaded, and you're fighting back. The overworld map, which got an overhaul in this latest update, allows you to go from region to region to engage with enemies and liberate the nation one territory at a time. As you do so, you'll collect parts or use scraps to manufacture your own to help customize your mechs with a very advanced customization system that has you picking individual parts and the subsystems they carry, monitoring various stats to design mechs for different use cases, like the nimble glass cannon sniper or the heavy sword and shield wielding behemoth. Then, when you fight, your mechs are able to use predictive technology to see the next handful of seconds of enemy actions, allowing you to plot your own movements and attacks accordingly. Then you play through the turn to see it all happen simultaneously in what must be the most satisfying turn-based combat I've ever seen. Every hit has thump, leveling cities feels epic, and there's really nothing like seeing a carefully orchestrated set of movements play out as your mechs jump off rooftops, swing their axes, or shoot through gaps in buildings to core enemy mechs. Just talking about it now is really making me want to dive right back into the game. Seriously, Phantom Brigade is definitely worth the price tag, and since the devs have started working on updates again, I can once again recommend it strongly. Jagged Alliance 3 is just under $15 at about 70% off, and if you're looking for a turn-based tactics game that's grounded in the realities of modern warfare while also dripping with the particular personality of 80s action flicks, well, you're looking at the right game. You're in charge of putting together a mercenary band to take on an operation in a make-believe African nation where things are falling apart under violent political pressure from a local paramilitary group. Each of your mercenaries are characters with their own backstories and personalities, as well as traits and attributes, and relationships with other mercenaries, so you'll have to choose wisely who you hire and watch out for how they interact, sometimes to your benefit, but more often not. There's a strategic layer that sends you traveling across a grid-based map of the region, pursuing sources of loot and resources that further your cause and help pay salaries, with villages that need liberating along the way, and enemy bands that need dodging or facing head-on as well, in particular as they head towards liberated villages to recapture them. You can explore each of these grid tiles up close, often finding various stashes or caches to help you along the way, and typically, you'll find at least some resistance. Stealth and real-time exploration allows you to find optimal positions and pull off ambushes, and when the bullets start to fly, you'll be picking firing modes on your guns and choosing which body part to target, rolling the dice on hit chances as you balance risk and reward across multiple brutal layers. The combat is quite challenging, and equipping your mercenaries properly is just as important as finding the right spot to hide behind cover while picking the right spot to shoot at, all while managing a massive nation-spanning operation, training your mercenaries, working with locals, and setting a country ablaze. Jagged Alliance 3 has some great innovations to match its over-the-top personality, and I can easily recommend picking it up. Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader is a whopping 60% off, available for just about $20, and whether you're a fan of the Warhammer 40k universe or not, I can highly recommend grabbing this CRPG with its real-time isometric exploration and intense turn-based tactical combat. The game features a truly epic-scale narrative that has you traveling across the vast expanse of an entire star sector onboard your flagship, all while interacting with a huge number of quests and side quests, as well as rumors that may or may not lead to and uncover more mysteries of the world, or perhaps dead ends, all while you peel back the layers of a dark, twisted conspiracy. There's a huge range of interesting characters, both in your companions and the NPCs you interact with otherwise, all featuring intricate backstories and awesome abilities unlike what you'll have seen in other CRPGs, unlocking all kinds of interesting synergies and strategies, further amplified by the huge range of equipment that's available for each of your companions based on their unique skills and traits. And the sheer variety of worlds and environments and enemies you'll explore and face off against will constantly keep you on your toes. Based on the tabletop RPG system of the same name, Rogue Trader is full of very interesting and unique concepts, and it executes on all of them flawlessly. I'd even say the DLC is absolutely worth it, with each one adding a bunch of additional content, and with a new one just around the corner too. As with all of Owlcat's other CRPGs, they really pushed the boundary with Rogue Trader here, introducing all sorts of interesting mechanics that exist beyond the traditional gameplay loop of the genre. As a rogue trader in this game, you'll engage in the running of a massive trade empire that spans across planets and often operates in illicit spaces and deals in illicit goods, or otherwise has access to resources beyond what's considered acceptable for the average citizen of the Imperium of Man. The choices you make won't just determine how events play out, but they'll determine who you are as a person, how others around you perceive you, and how willing you are to bend the rules to make ends meet. Rogue Trader is a phenomenal CRPG, and as I said before, whether you care for the world of Warhammer 40k or not, you should absolutely check this out if you have even a passing interest in the genre. Age of Wonders 4 is currently half off, available for just $25, and you'll have heard me recommend it time and time again if you follow the channel. It's a phenomenal 4X game for fans of high fantasy, with a faction customization system in particular that gives truth to the phrase, endless replayability. You'll be able to choose a visual form for your faction and pair it with a wide selection of species traits, societal values, cultural attributes, and much more besides, all in the interest of defining what truly makes them tick, with unique combinations and synergies providing fresh opportunities with every playthrough, not just mechanically with the buildings and units at your disposal, but narratively too, determining what events you'll see and how you might be able to engage with them. The tome system is particularly interesting. Instead of researching tech across a common tree between all factions in a game, every few unlocks, you'll get to choose from a set of tomes that determine the next set of options available for you and only you in this playthrough to research. Tech here can range from new buildings and units to spells to use either on the campaign map or in combat, or in a way that fundamentally modifies your people to garner them certain buffs and debuffs, like making them all just a little tree infused or turning them demonic or angelic. This means that the freshness of a run isn't just in the opening acts, but through to the finish line with these varied options. And if that's not enough, the last big selling point for me at least is combat. Turn-based tactical battles where you control the individual units in an army and have to concern yourself with action points, special abilities, flanking, hit chances, so on and so forth, seeking out synergies with new units you acquire through advancements or through the subjugation of other people. Age of Wonders 4 has done a fantastic job with all of its DLC too, adding meaningful new options with each, and though it's not necessary for a good time, it's always good to see a game get good, long-term support well after launch. You can slowly grow your collection across multiple sales, as even the base game here has a lot to fiddle with just for starters. The game is always extremely easy for me to recommend. Inscryption is currently less than $10, and this game is unlike anything else on this list, and I guarantee you, it's unlike anything else you've ever played before too. I only got onto it relatively recently, but it immediately got its hooks in me with its unique art style, its mysterious narrative, its wildly unpredictable structure, and, well, a lot of other stuff it does that I won't explain more than what you're seeing on screen. A roguelike deck builder is probably the most appropriate way to describe the game, and while that does sound generic these days, you'll have to trust me when I say that this one is brimming with unique ideas and how you do everything from upgrade and modify your cards to find synergies in combat to just otherwise interact with the world around you. I can't say too much without spoiling the experience, which is why I'm being a little vague, but I recommend not to watch any trailers or let's plays or anything else that might give away too much, and instead just diving into it if the genre and price point sound good to you. The game is well worth full price though, so I can easily and always recommend picking it up. Planet Zoo is on an absolutely massive discount right now, and even though the devs have already started teasing the sequel for the game, I think Planet Zoo is more than worth checking out, especially at this price point, with all the DLC thrown in for good measure too. There's hundreds of hours of fun to be had here as you run your zoo across a few different game modes, including a heavily objective-driven one, a complete sandbox with variable challenge levels based on your preferences, and my personal favorite, a franchise mode that gives you a great deal of freedom without any objectives, but with all the challenge of having to keep an eye on both staff and animal happiness, economic factors, and concerns like weather and even animal genetics if you want to run a breeding program or maintain multiple generations of any one of your animals. Apart from all the actual layers of management, Planet Zoo has, hands down, one of the most powerful creative tools I've ever seen in games like this. No surprise, since this is from the same folks that made Planet Coaster. What's most impressive is watching the various animals truly interact with all the wild spaces you can create for them, especially because of how beautifully they've been rendered and animated. I've made some truly wild concoctions, from orangutan overpasses to jungle gyms to entire Arctic expanses and Tibetan monasteries and much more besides, and seeing the animals actually live in them and interact with the spaces is just, it never gets old. Whether you want a management challenge that has you looking at financial reports or a creative outlet or a mix of both, Planet Zoo is the perfect choice to this day. The next few games I'd like to recommend are all published by Hooded Horse, so I just want to quickly remind you that outside of this channel, I am affiliated with Hooded Horse. That's not to say they sponsor any of my videos or ask me to cover their games, but I do want to mention it just for the sake of transparency. The reason I'm affiliated with them at all is because I like the games they publish, so it shouldn't be a surprise when their games come up on the channel from time to time. For more information on the affiliation, check out the video linked in the description down below. MENACE is currently 25% off, available for just $30, and I am completely obsessed with it to the point that I'm either playing it or I'm thinking about playing it. I've got a series running on the channel right now if you want to see gameplay, but put briefly, MENACE is a squad-based, turn-based tactics game that has you leading a marine excursion into a distant star system in an effort to get it to join the core worlds. As your mission sends you between planets to improve relations with the various local factions by completing quests for them, you eventually stumble upon a great threat that might just spell doom for you and the system as a whole. Each squad leader here has unique backstories alongside their unique perks and promotion trees that let you specialize them and their squads in various ways, and whether they're coming in with an infantry squad or a vehicle, you'll be able to customize their equipment as well to best match your needs as well as their traits and attributes. The black market sells a rotating stock of goods ranging from night vision goggles and anti-tank mines to assault rifles, RPGs, mechs, and camo suits, and if you need to hire more squad leaders, you'll need to spend some resources to recruit them from the local pool of willing fighters, a local pool that might not get along with your Marines. And given how tough combat is, chances are you'll need to fill out your ranks quite often, and apart from bringing the challenge you'd expect from the folks that made Battle Brothers, the game innovates in a lot of ways. Missions aren't isolated endeavors, instead tied together through branching paths and carrying consequences from mission to mission in what's considered one larger operation that ultimately offers different rewards and challenges depending on the trajectory you take. The interplay of stealth, detection, and weapon ranges is immense, especially paired with how damage fall-off works over distance, even within effective ranges. The plethora of equipment and equipment modifiers, and the RNG that determines what you get, all creates a need for staying on your toes, and above all, the alternating activations approach to turns means the battlefield remains constantly unpredictable as initiative orders are out the window and either side of the battle can move their squads in any order in any given turn. The devs have already put out a bunch of updates since launch, and they have grand plans for the future. I highly recommend jumping in. Whiskerwood is currently 35% off, sitting at just $20, and even though it just released a few months ago, the devs have already dropped over 20 updates that have brought huge changes across various features, from adding splitters and filters to its system of conveyor belts to means of transportation to move around the islands of your growing colony. A colony management game that blends in a significant degree of factory automation, Whiskerwood has you leading a literal colony of mice that's been established on a distant archipelago in service of their feline overlords and the cat empire. You're tasked with acquiring raw materials to ship back to the homeland, setting your little mice to mining, refining, chopping, and otherwise establishing processes and production chains that produce the various goods that are in demand back home. But everything you do in the interest of progress, especially in higher difficulties, is taxed by your overlords, creating a relatively constant pressure loop. Need more mice to drum up efficiency? Well, a larger colony owes a bigger tax. Need some emergency resources or perhaps a cup of tea to keep the laborers happy? Taxed. Are you producing industrial goods that make your colony more efficient but eat into the cat's ability to sell you these emergency resources? Taxed. Managed to make it through another day of service to the royals? Believe it or not, taxed. But the way the game uses these taxes to push progress is great. As a player, you're constantly required to get better, because overpaying your taxes grants you boons, while missing payments can bring an end to your colony. But this pursuit will often lead to the suffering of your mice, who all need to be housed, fed, warmed, and kept clean. The same resources that define progress for the overlords are required to create better conditions for your mice, and as you try to balance both of these factors, you'll set policies that manage productivity and happiness, you'll seek complex goods that spark joy, and you'll manage pollution brought on by industrialization, and you'll battle the elements themselves. I could go on and on about all the moving parts and how meticulously they've been made to work together, but then we'd be here for hours. Whiskerwood is an easy recommendation, and if you're even remotely interested in the genre, you should certainly check it out. Heart of the Machine is half off at $15, having just released into 1.0 a couple weeks ago, after just over a year in early access. The game remains one of the most innovative experiences I've had in video games in a long time, blending strategic RPG elements in with tactical combat and 4X concepts, throwing in everything from time travel to gene splicing and sprinkling in a layer of additional chaos, all without ending up goofy or silly. You play as the world's first sentient AI, the only thing that can truly break the cycle of dystopia that has created this cyberpunk hellscape run by corpos and criminals. But while you very much are the protagonist of the story, the goals you choose to pursue are entirely up to you to decide, whether they're considered traditionally good or evil. Will you uplift the downtrodden and house the homeless, or will you kidnap vulnerable humans to hijack their brains and use them for processing power? Will you care for the stray cats of the city, or use scientific advancement to raise an army of velociraptors that do your bidding? Form a cult, deal with the black market, set off a nuke, and kick off World War IV. These are all just a fraction of the possibilities in a game that puts countless story threads in front of you and asks you to pull before eventually revealing how they may or may not intertwine. You'll manage resource acquisition, you'll design and upgrade your arsenal of robotic bodies, you'll create dumber shells that are simply programmed to do one or two simple things, and you'll build across and around an existing city, all while engaging with exploration, expansion, exploitation, and extermination in ways I've never seen done before. Heart of the Machine is a difficult game to encapsulate in writing and in speech, but I think once you sit down with it and see it open up in front of you, you'll become just like me, recommending it to everyone you can. At this price point especially, the countless hours of innovative entertainment is an absolute steal. Old World is available for less than $5, and this remains one of the best historical 4X games available right now, focused purely around the ancient era, with the base game centered around the Mediterranean. There's an upcoming piece of DLC that adds the Indian subcontinent to the game, including 3 new factions, a new religion, new wonders, but even without any of the DLC that the game has to offer, there's a really magnificent and innovative game here. Whether it's the character-centric approach to politics and warfare that introduces opportunities for intrigue and storytelling, or the somewhat randomized approach to the tech tree that feels like a more believable process rather than following predefined paths, or even the orders system that reflects the bureaucratic strain of running an expansive empire without the infrastructure to support it. There are a bunch of excellent ideas packed into every layer of the traditional 4X gameplay loop, matched with top-notch art, music, and writing. If you're a fan of the genre and you haven't yet checked out Old World, I highly recommend you do so, especially at this price point. Well, there you have it, folks, a bunch of excellent deals to jump in on during the Steam Spring Sale. If you have any recommendations of your own, drop them in the comments down below, and if you found something in the video that you liked, consider hitting the like button and letting me know in the comments too. I'm always curious to know what people decided to pick up. For more strategic and tactical gaming, don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel, and as always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly, and of course a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.